Tiene que abrir aquí.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Unbox Live. I'm your host, Nate Beck, and to my left,
the other host, JP Awad. What is happening, everybody? How are you?
we are very excited about today's episode. Today, we are going to be doing a fun Father's Day edition of Unbox Live, and we have a really awesome guest on today, one of our closest friends in the cigar industry and big supporter of Boveda. We have on today Enrique Seijas of Matilde Cigars. Welcome, Enrique.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
We're doing awesome.
Well?
So good, man.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Even better now. Talking to you guys. How can I not be good?
Yes, right back at you.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
So where are you calling in from today? Where are you based out of today?
I'm based in the Dominican Republic right now. I'm actually calling from the warehouse here in Tamboril.
Oh, awesome.
I was here with some meetings, so I'm here for. Actually, I was here for a meeting in the morning, and I stayed for the interview, and then I go back to the city after that because it's my. We were talking about it. It's my father-in-law's birthday today.
Yeah,
so I'm going back out to celebrate Father's Day with Father's Day, right?
Yeah, man.
And you just had a birthday, what, last week?
Yes, just last week. My birthday is June 7th, and my son's birthday is June 5th.
Oh,
so we went out. We went celebrating to our cabin up in the mountains on my son's birthday. So I celebrated his birthday, and then a little bit of mine. It was all his friends, and whatever was left over was left for me. Apparently, I found out very early in my son's life that I was never going to have a birthday again. It was going to be his birthday, and then around his birthday, I was going to do mine.
All right.
Which is a beautiful thing.
At least now you know the game plan, so you can be prepared.
Yeah, about it. I had my hopes, but.
And is this your son that turned 6 or the one that's 2?
The one that turned 6.
So
the one that turned 6 was born 2 days before me, and the one that turned 2 actually was born the same day of my grandfather.
Oh, very cool.
That's great, man.
Now, one of the cool things that we're most excited about today is that we're going to be talking about the cigar that you made in honor of your father, who sadly we lost and you lost in November, right, of last year?
That is correct, November 6th.
We're very sad, and our condolences. He's greatly missed, but we are going to be smoking the Jose Seijas that you made specifically for him, and this will be the first time for me. I have not smoked this yet.
Yeah, so first time.
I think we might as well open this box.
There it is.
Light that up, man. Open the box, light it up. It's a beautiful cigar.
Yeah, we've got beautiful packaging. This is just spectacular. Of course, Boveda pack sitting right there on top.
Of course,
JP, one for you.
Thank you, sir.
And one for me. I'm very excited.
Thanks again for sending us these. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Oh, it was a pleasure, man. It was a pleasure. It's always good to share good things and things that you love with people that you love.
Yeah. So, Enrique, as we're cutting these and lighting them, can you tell us a little bit about the blend of it and kind of what that blend means to you and how it brings your father to mind?
Oh, of course. I mean, let's start. You know what? Let's start with the genesis of it.
Yeah.
So the blend is 100% Dominican filler binder, and it's got a beautiful Habano Ecuadorian wrapper. But the genesis of this cigar is my dad, right? That's the reason that it was created. That's the reason that we named it Para Jose Seijas. My dad started in 74. Sheer coincidence. Built his way up to being VP of Operations and Master Blender. Gave me a beautiful life. Amazing life. I was exposed to cigars and tobacco very early, not smoking them as a kid, but I used to play around the factory. So all of this made me fall in love with the industry, and with the process, manufacturing, the art form of making cigars.
Yeah,
so that's one thing. And my dad retires from his position as VP of Operations and Master Blender for Tabacalera de Garcia in the end of 2011. And I was working with him at the time, and we decided to start our own small company, Matilde Cigars. And that's where we went from corporate to being a very boutique, very small family business. Yeah. And the idea was keeping my dad in the industry and keeping a continuation of our family in the industry, because I wanted to keep on the industry and learning from my dad. So fast forward, we create Matilde. We named Matilde for various reasons. First of all, at that moment we couldn't use our last name, Seijas or Jose Seijas, because we didn't use that trademark. So instead of paying homage to the Dominican, to our family, we decided to pay homage to the Dominican Republic. We had a historian looking at different cigar brands that were existent at a moment but no longer, so dormant brands. We came along Matilde and we revived it. We made it our own. We revived it. It was a brand that was dormant for about almost 100 years, and we revived it as a way to pay homage to the Dominican Republic. It's a Dominican brand with Dominican roots. We are Dominican. We make our cigars in Dominican Republic, and we use most of our tobacco from the Dominican Republic. So, coño, let's revive something Dominican. And that's how our brand comes along.
Yeah.
During that tenure, we make Matilde Serena, Serena Maduro, Renacer, Cuadrata, Oscura. But there wasn't a cigar with our last name, with my dad's name. And about 4 years ago, I'm sitting down and thinking, and all this time, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and Parkinson's has been advancing more and more and more. And it came to a point a couple of years back where he had to take a step back, and he couldn't work anymore, and he just wasn't there anymore, right? And I'm thinking one day smoking a cigar, and I'm thinking, people usually they will pay homage to their loved ones once they pass away, once they're no longer there. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to say thank you, to pay homage, not even a homage. It was a thank you.
Yep.
It's to my father, to my dad, the guy that raised me, gave me the life that I had. I speak English because of him. School, school he put me through. He got me into the cigar industry. I mean, he gave me so much. He took so little, and he needed so little. Because for those that knew my dad was a guy that was very simple. He loved working with cigars. He loved working with people, and he loved playing golf and his family. Not a materialistic guy. He didn't like fancy watches, fancy cars, fancy anything. So what can you gift a person like that had it all, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And so the Para Jose Seijas idea came up. So you know what? What do you gift a guy that loves his family, tobacco, and giving? I say, coño, let's make a cigar. And that's the reason that this cigar is called Para Jose Seijas, which translation is for Jose Seijas, made to honor my dad, hecho para honrar a mi padre. So it's literally the brand itself is for Jose Seijas in honor of my father. And it was a way for me, for his family, for my brother, for my sister, because I came up with the idea, but my family, my whole direct family was involved in the whole process because I wanted to make sure it was something that came from our family, even though I was leading it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was the only way to say thank you in a meaningful way, not in a materialistic way. And that's how Para Jose Seijas originates. The goal of this cigar, of this brand, was to embody my dad's loves. And my dad's loves were very simple, kind of hard to embody, but very simple. It was a family. He lived and worked for our family. So, last name. It's our family name. It's our first cigar under our umbrella that bears our last name and bears his name. So that's a way of us keeping my dad in the industry, saying, okay, we have Matilde, but under Matilde, under our company, there's a cigar that's going to keep your family name going, which is Para Jose Seijas, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
His second love, and I would say it was one of his top loves. We used to kid around when we were young that we're three in the family. I'm the youngest, my brother Ricardo, and then my sister is the eldest, Karen, right? But there was another family member, which was older than all of us, which was a factory. And we used to kid around. So he had like another family member, another daughter, which was a factory. He spent most of his time at the factory. Hey, dude, I remember during the boom, the '90s boom, we used to go visit him because the factory was working 24/7, and he was a guy that if there's people working 24/7, he was working 24/7.
Yeah.
So we used to go at 7, 8, and 9, go sit down with him. So he was that kind of person. So the second embodiment of his love was tobacco. And my dad was a fortunate human being. His first job was his only job, and it was his hugest passion. So he got hired straight from university in '74 to work with tobacco, not even making cigars, working with the tobacco loads, the selection, stripping and mauling of Connecticut and Pennsylvania tobacco, and built his way up to being the VP of operations of the company. It was his only job. He went through a lot of companies. He went through a lot of mergers and acquisitions, but he was still in the same company, worked still with the same people up until his retirement in 2011.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
he was deeply in love with the tobacco, with the process of manufacturing cigars, with the process of perfecting the manufacturing of cigars. My dad was an industrial engineer, so he used to break down every single system, every single process. He broke it down left and right, did time studies, draw testing, anything that he could do to make it better. But he was deeply, deeply in love with this. So his second love is tobacco, and that's where the blend comes in. The blend is 100% Dominican. It has Criollo 98, it has Corojo, HVA, and Piloto. It's blended to be a medium-bodied cigar, medium plus in strength, full in flavor. One of the things that we were looking to express with this cigar was balance. And my dad wasn't a powerhouse smoker. He didn't like strong cigars. He always focused on the balance of the cigars, making sure that that flavor was never overpowered by the strength of the cigar.
Yeah.
Just getting that beautiful balance between the sweetness, the saltiness, the acidity, the bitterness, just having that umami, right? And that's what we're looking for with this cigar. Not focusing so much on the strength, but on that balance and that cleanness of the cigar. And I think we reached it. And this was the hardest part for me. Like when we're doing the cigars, this project started 4 years ago, guys. We launched it now, but it started 4 years ago. We had the branding ready, packaging, everything was ready year one. And then finding that blend that reminded me of my dad was the tough part. We came along a lot of beautiful blends, a lot of great blends. But it had to be like that blend that was like, when you have like love at first sight, that you see somebody and like, oh my God, love at first sight. It had to be that, but with my dad. Like, this is my dad.
Yeah,
and he just kept on smoking cigars, smoking new blends, smoking tests. And it was never, it's a great cigar, but it's not my dad. It's not my dad. It's not my dad.
So speaking of, how your father's love of tobacco, right out of college, he went straight to work in the tobacco industry. Where do you think that came from for him?
Coincidence. He was a friend, literally. He was an industrial engineer.
Yeah.
He came out of college, and a friend said, "You know what, Jose? There's a company viejo in La Romana that's looking for an industrial engineer."
Yeah.
And it was it. He walked in. My dad. I come from a family. My grandfather was a mayor of La Romana. My grandfather was always in politics, and so my grandfather was a dentist and in politics, and my uncle, same thing. He was a broker, an insurance broker.
Yeah.
And had politics. So my family's a politician family. It's the boys, right? My dad didn't like it, and he went and he did politics in his own way within the company. He helped a lot within the company because he was able to, but he didn't like it. He was an industrial engineer, and it was sheer coincidence. It just happened to be that he fell in love with his first job. He fell in love with this beautiful dead leaves, dried leaves that make this beautiful, beautiful cylinder. Cigars that just give you flavors, aromas, and just makes you happy.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that he didn't start in manufacturing. About 3 or 4 years into his tenure, he got shipped to, look at that beautiful guy. He got shipped into the Canary Islands. And he worked in Tabacalines, and that's when he started working with manufacturing. And at that time, his job was dealing with the syndicates and then with the people. But that's when he started working into the manufacturing side. He started falling more and more in love because manufacturing has a beautiful process. And then that company got moved to La Romana, which is now Tabacalera de Garcia. And he just built his way up. In 1984, he became the VP of Operations, General Manager, and Master Blender for the company. So when I was born, he got that promotion. And I brought that promotion from the sky, from God, right? I came with it, right? There's a saying in the Dominican Republic, I'm sure it's the same thing in the States, que los niños vienen con el pan debajo del brazo. So basically what it says is, don't worry, when you have a kid, money comes behind it. So they come with their food under the arm. So I guess I came with a big promotion from my dad on my arm, right?
That's
Right.
awesome. That is so cool.
And but it was pure coincidence, JP. O sea, he wasn't looking for it. La Romana is not cigar country, as you guys know.
Yeah.
Cigar production, tobacco production, everything is in Santiago, in the Tamborilas, and el Valle del Cibao, right? We're in the southeast. We're in tourism. Where Casa de Campo is, where Punta Cana is. It just happens to be that the owner of this company, it was the owner of Gulf and Western. He had the free zones there, so it logistically and economically, it makes sense for him to have it there.
Yeah.
So it was just coincidence. It was a beautiful, beautiful coincidencia. It's a godly coincidence.
That's fantastic.
So growing up, what was the thing that you loved most about watching your dad work that really kind of captured your imagination and made you decide this is going to be my life as well?
You know what's funny? People always mention they fell in love with the tobacco, or they fell in love with the process, or they smoked their cigar when they were 12. I didn't do any of that shit. What actually made me fall in love with this industry and made me want to be this was my dad himself. My dad wasn't a simple guy. He was a complicated guy when it came to work. He was very meticulous and perfectionist. But one thing that he did have, which I admired, and I came to understand it late in my life, or later in my life, was that he loved people. He loved helping. And the way that he worked with people, the way that he reacted to people, the way that he managed this beast of a company. Right? It's a company that had anywhere between 1,800 to 5,000 employees at its point, right?
Yeah.
And that's what really attracted me to the industry, to the business, was learning from this guy, which first of all was my role model because he was my father. But I always had this process and this way of working and of being and just him. And that's the reason I started in this industry. I could have been in lumber, I could have been in banking, but I want to work with my dad. I love cigars, don't get me wrong. I loved it at the time, I was smoking at the time. I loved the process. I grew up in this factory. I rollerbladed. I rode a bike. I rollerbladed. I slept in the bail rooms. I did everything as everybody did as a kid.
Yeah.
But my true love, my true calling, my true reason for being in this industry is my father. Not the tobacco. It's my father. That's what pulled me. That was my lure into this industry.
Well, it certainly shows through with the cigar, man. I can tell you that much. It's a beautiful. I mean, it's a strikingly gorgeous cigar.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we can do a little, obviously, like just this is honestly one of the nicest. Honestly, one of the most striking, beautiful, gorgeous labels that I've ever seen on a cigar. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke either, no pun intended, but it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And I think your dad would be very proud of this.
Yeah. Well, and I like hearing you talk about your dad the way you have been. My dad was the best man at my wedding. My career path would have been as a singer. I would have gone into musical theater, and it just wasn't for me. When I had the good fortune to do one professional show, and I went, I just don't think I want to do this. And I ended up in sales like my dad. But the thing about my dad that, like your dad, and what made you want to spend time with them and follow him into the industry, and why you had such a close relationship. I went on a trip with my dad. He traveled for his job as a salesman and running a sales division. We walked into a restaurant in Kansas City, a very famous fried chicken place in Kansas City called Stroud's. And that was a regular stop for my dad. And we walked in, and there was a gentleman with his back to us. And my dad said hello to this guy. And without turning around, that gentleman went, "Dan Beck, how are you?" Turned around and gave him a huge hug. And I went, everywhere I go with my dad, people responded to my dad like that. And I went, if I can interact with people now and as an adult, especially in work, to where people have that kind of engagement with me and you draw people in, I said, I'll feel like my life was a success. So I feel really fortunate that I also have a great relationship with my dad. I wish he smoked cigars so we could be watching on YouTube, but he's far too unsavvy to be able to dial in and watch a YouTube live.
But I got to tell you something, Nate. You take after your dad.
Oh, thank you.
because you do the same thing, man. Everybody you go over here, everybody loves you. You have this thing about you which makes you like the. I remember the first day we met, Vio. It was just like both of you. First day we met, it was like there was a connection. You guys have this ability to connect, which is great in sales and great for personal wise, right?
That's really
But
kind
it's the
of
same thing. You sit down, Vio, you talk. It's very welcoming. So you take after your dad. I can tell you that.
Well, I appreciate that. And the feeling is absolutely mutual, considering that for anyone that's ever had the good fortune to attend a Premium Cigar Association trade show, the latest night I was ever up, and there was no crazy partying, but just great conversation and, some cocktails and a bunch of cigars, was till about 5:30 in the morning with you.
Oh my God.
And I remember
Khalifa.
yes, and with Khalifa, that was a mutual friend from Bahrain. I still have that lighter, by the way, that he gave me, a soft flame lighter that I thought was a DuPont. And he goes, "No, it's a Colibri."
Yeah.
You keep it.
Yeah, he goes, "You keep it." And he goes, "Don't worry, I'll go get another one tomorrow." And then he found me at the booth. I don't know if I ever told you this. He found me at the booth the next day and came by, and he goes, "See, I told you I'd get another one."
Really?
Yeah, get another one.
So funny. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, so the feeling is definitely mutual. JP and I both are always very excited to see you come walking down the aisle at PCA, because you're a highlight for us whenever we get to see you at. Wish it was more often.
Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
Well, I always make it to the boba booth because I love you guys. So it's
we love
mutual.
you back, buddy. So, hey, going back to what Nate was just saying about his father, right? Your dad was revered in the industry. He still is revered in the industry. He's an OG. So many people look up to him and all of his accolades and what he's done for the industry. Can you tell us a little bit about his nickname? Josechu, is that correct?
Josechu. Josechu is that nickname was given by mi tío Martín. I wasn't alive, so I since I know he was known as Josechu. It's a diminutive from Jose. They call it Josechu. And people that really knew my dad, very few people call him Jose. It was more Josechu.
Yeah.
Josechu. And my mom called him Josechu. I called him Dad, but everybody that was close to him or was a friend was Josechu. And the factory was Boss or Don Jose, El Boss or Don Jose. But Josechu, yeah, it was given by my tío Martín. He was a Spaniard and a very good great uncle. He's my dad's uncle. He was married to my dad's aunt. We had a very great relationship with them, and he named him Josechu. And since I have use of the memory, he's always been Josechu. It just sticked.
That's so.
Has anybody given you a nickname? Do you have one that people call you, or is it always just Enrique?
It's always been Enrique. I mean, when I was younger, they used to call me Kike.
Okay.
Which is not great in English because it's Kike. So you say it in English like Kike.
Oh, yeah.
But Kike, but not many people call me Kike anymore. In my childhood, I had friends that called me Kike, but most people call me Enrique. And then you had the college years when you have alternate personalities. That's another thing.
Yeah.
You had Billy Bob Joel that came out at 3 a.m. in the morning and stuff like that. But a nickname that stood, it was always Kike, and it's always been Enrique. I haven't had the fortune to have somebody nickname me like they have my dad. So I like my name. It's a kind of unique name in the Dominican Republic. Not many Enriques. So every time somebody says Enrique, I'm just turning around. Who's calling me?
What? Yep. That's awesome,
great, man. Okay, so if there's one kind of life lesson outside of cigars that your father taught you, what is that one thing?
It comes to his third love, which was his calling. Give back. Simple.
That's awesome. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize if I'm mistaken here. Is a portion of the proceeds from this cigar, does it go to the Parkinson's Foundation?
Yes. So that was his third love. So I always said my dad had three loves. Two were passions, which is family and tobacco, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his calling, what he loved to do, what he lived for, was helping others, building others.
Yeah.
And as I said, that's what brought me to his attention. That's what brought me to work with him, right?
Yeah.
And he was able to do so much, so much in his life. He was the largest employer in La Romana besides Central Romana. He was able to help his employees in ways that it wasn't only economic but personal advice. Help people set up companies. He set up at a moment a savings and loans within the company to make sure that employees could get money, not at loan sharks. There was a point where, you know, every 15th and 30th, there was a line of loan sharks. I remember because I used to work on the summers in the factory.
Yeah.
And they used to pay by check. So you used to go, they used to change the check, they use a 10% VIG, but with people that had loans with them, they used to change the check, take about 50%, 60% of their earnings, and then get 40% back. And
Wow.
one of the things that my dad always said is that, you know, nobody can be happy or can be making cigars or can be in a good place with this type of relationship. So he banned loan sharks from coming to the factory in the free zone. And they set up their savings and loans where people would take money from their own savings. And at the end of the year, they used to make dividends on that, right? As a cooperative.
Mhm.
And within that cooperative, he was able to create a furniture company because that was another thing that people got in debt with, right? Because you have a house and want furniture. So he had a little shop that came out from the cooperative. They used to raffle houses. There was a sun. We had a pool of 5,000 employees. So every employee like put, you know, a certain amount of money. And every year, 3 or 4 houses were built and, you know, people would win it. But at the end of the suns, everybody would get a house. And so his thing was helping and helping to an extent that that I didn't understand at the time, and I sometimes I still don't understand. And I
Yeah.
think we talked about this at the trade show when I really understood this about my dad because I knew he was a good guy. I mean, he's a you know, Christian, nice Christian guy, good family. I mean, nice values and everything. But when I understood where he actually stood when it came to helping. I think I had to be like 14 or 15 years old or something like that. I was at the factory after school. I don't know doing what the hell. Um, and the manager comes in and he says, "Coño, Jose, chico, Don Jose, coño, boss, I've been trying to get a loan. We just had a new kid. I need to get a new car. I've been trying to get a loan. I haven't been able to get it. I went to the bank. It was denied. I went to the cooperative. It was denied because he didn't qualify for the amount of money that he needed or he wanted." And my dad, if you look at the boxes as the quiet man,
Mhm.
because he was a very quiet man. And there's actually an article on Cigar Aficionado called "The Quiet Man." Thank you to Cigar Aficionado letting me seal that name for him. No? And he very quietly said, "You know what? Okay, how much? Okay, X amount. Okay, go to the cooperative. Tell them to give you the money, and I'll be your co-signer.
Yeah.
So I'll be your warranty."
Wow.
And my head's going like this, right? And the guy leaves, very happy, obviously.
Mhm.
And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I don't get it. So you make cigars. You're not a financial institution.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all the financial institutions, even the company financial institutions, say he wasn't capable of paying for the loan. Why would you risk your money? Why would you do it? And his answer was so simple that it was as clear as it could be. And it was because I can. That was as simple as that.
Yeah.
Because I can. I can help this guy have a better life. I can help this guy have more safety for his family.
Mhm.
And it's not costing me anything
Yep.
at all. It's not even costing him his money. It was, you know, doing the VIG. Not the VIG being the warranty, right?
Yep.
And that's where I got it. Like, okay, so it's not only about the capitalist, because you know having the cooperative, it's also capitalism. You're making cigars.
Hmm?
You want the cigar roller not to be thinking that he's not going to have any money at the end of the month because you're not. There's always a reason for doing things, right? I was
Yeah.
like, but wait, I was like, it's because he could. Same thing he did with he set up a purchasing policy where we were from La Romana, but at that point, a lot of purchases were made in the city in Santo Domingo. And he set up a purchasing policy where people had to quote in La Romana, and if the quote was the same, they had to buy from La Romana. So that was like, you know, if they match it, they have to buy from La Romana. That grew a lot of companies, a lot of stores and industries. Think about, you know, a paper company, not a paper company, a paper store. where Tabacalera, a company of 5,000 employees, was burning through fucking paper. There was no digital there.
Yeah.
There's now starts buying paper from them. So, and this is the kind of thing that he used to do. He loved to help, and that was his, and that was his calling. I was like, that's what he did, even when he knew he was gonna get the money back. Because I there were points where he loaned money, and he was sure they was gonna get it back, but he didn't need it.
Yep.
We were fortunate. We were very fortunate.
Yep.
Because of my dad, my mom had the hardest job. She was a stay-at-home mom. It's the hardest job in the world, taking care of the house. My dad only made cigars and played golf. Then the rest of my mom. She managed the finance. She managed everything, right?
Yeah.
So she had the toughest job. Like, she had a job. My dad had just his hobby and passion, right?
Yeah.
Pero, and this is what he did. He would just helped when he couldn't. And there were times where my mom was like, "What the fuck? You're not gonna get that money back, Jose. Tu sabe que no. You know you're not. You know he's not good for it." He's like, "Well, we can." So,
Yeah.
are you missing anything? Aren't your kids in the best school? Aren't your kids studying in the best universities?
Yeah.
So we're well off. Let's help. And that's what he used to do. That's what he loved to do.
Yeah.
And that's where the third pillar of Para Jose has come in. So my dad, unfortunately, passed away November 6th, and it was because of Parkinson's. But before that, and because the process took me so long, it wasn't like the first day I said, okay, there's going to be this, it's going to be pa, pa, pa. Just started building itself. Procrastination at some level has good things, right?
Yeah.
And the last pillar, when I was thinking about my dad and thinking about what he did, it was like, there's no homage to my dad making a cigar only with his name or with great tobacco. Because if you think about it, his name is kind of what do you call this? It's egocentric, right? It's my name. I want to represent my name. It's a legacy, but it's you, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the tobacco is what he loved, but his calling, what he lived for, was helping, right? I say, it's not a homage to my dad if I'm not giving back, if I'm not helping. So my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's. At that time, my dad was taken by Parkinson's. At that point, 4 years ago, he wasn't really functional anymore. And I said, you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to raise funds for the Parkinson's Foundation, Dominican Republic. And that's when I named the Para Jose as my break-even project. And people didn't get why I was calling my break-even project. It was like, well, it's a cigar that I'm going to sell. And for every box that we sold, we raised, or we're donating $10 to the Parkinson's Foundation. So up to date, we've been able to raise up to $7,000. Like, for a company our size, is a lot. It's a good amount of money for a company our size. It's huge,
That's fantastic.
for the first tryout we've done. And that's where I think the third pillar, and what my dad would have loved the most, that would be the present that I gave my dad. That would be the actual thank you that I gave my dad, was actually giving back. So what happens? When I started this project, it was a way to say thank you to my dad while he was alive. He was alive. I wanted to make sure we sold a cigar with his name. Say, Papi, mira, we got it. Here's your name. Here's your cigar. And that was it. But God had different plans. My dad died before PCA, before we could release a cigar. He was able to look at the brand and the cigars and everything. And there's where the twist happened. This was going to be a one-time thing, one-size thing. But I couldn't use it for what I wanted to use it. My thing was saying thank you to my dad while he was alive. So we are here. Thank you. This is your present.
Yeah.
So the twist to my dad's death was keeping him alive. Was saying, you know what? I couldn't say thank you. I couldn't give him this present. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my father alive through Para Jose Seijas, keeping his passion of tobacco, his legacy of our name, and his love of giving back alive, by making a Para Jose Seijas every year with the same concept. The concept is raising funds for the Parkinson's Foundation, the Dominican Republic. So hopefully, Viejo, in 10 years, we're raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for this Para Jose Seijas brand. But that's the way that me and my family decided to keep my dad alive in the industry physically, because he's always going to be alive. So my dad's always going to be a part of me. People
Yep.
that know me, and I talk a lot about two people. That's my father when it talks about work, industry, and values, and that's my wife when it's etc. So
Yes.
my wife is always going to find her way into my conversation, and my dad is always going to find his way into the conversation, because those are the people, that I love and admire. And it's funny because my dad can't say it anymore. My wife's like, "You never call me." I'm like, "I talk to you about it all the time." Just I guess I forgot to call you because I'm always talking to about you. But my dad is always with me, and one thing that he did give me was the values and the morals that he ingraced in me. And when he passed away, now my decision is like, what would my dad do? And
Yep.
usually it's the hardest fucking thing. My dad was a guy that, if it's hard and it's right, I'm still gonna do it. Fuck the easy way. I'm just gonna keep on going. I remember years ago. So the factory was in the free zone, right? The free zone was a private free zone that was owned by Central Romana, and President of Central Romana was married to my aunt, my mother's cousin. The free zones have concessions, and one of them is electricity. Or electricity is less expensive because it's a way to incentivize people to invest, right? For having lower costs. And I remember that my father, that free zone was charging prices from the electric company of Central Romana. They were much higher.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, nope, I can't be. And he had a guy, he built everything. I remember it was my cousin, he was an electrical engineer. And he did the whole concept, and he went to a fight with Central Romana, the largest employer in the country. He's the second largest sugar mill, I think, in the world. They employ like 50,000 people. And my dad was, let's say a Mr. Nobody with 5,000 people. At that time, he was a nobody, but compared to the size of this
Yeah.
beast, right? And he went on being able to fighting this shit until he won. And they had to fix the price of energy. It wasn't his company. He wasn't making the buck, but it was the right thing to do. He was
Yeah.
managing the company, he was working as it was in. He just went straight through Viejo and just ended up going Viejo and fighting and fighting and fighting until he got. And that was his personality. His personality was, if he thought and believed in his heart that it was the correct thing to do, he would go all at it, all at it. Doesn't matter how hard it was. And it came from everywhere. It came from like running the business. I remember this one year he didn't take his salary upgrade, his raise,
Mhm.
because he wasn't able to get the raise that he wanted for his employees. It's like, shit, I don't know this shit alone. If they can't get a raise, if they don't get the merit to get the raise that we're asking for, I can't get it either. So it was that kind of person, right? It was more, he was a valued and moral based guy. I'm not there. Don't get me wrong. It's pretty hard. He's kind of a unique guy when it came to that, because it came to his determined many times. If he knew he was going to be fucked and it's still the right thing, he would still get fucked. If I think I'm going to get kind of close, I kind of bet something to make sure, I'm not completely taken abroad. But he was a guy that it just didn't matter. If it was the right thing to do, it was the right thing to do. Period.
Yeah.
That's admirable.
So
Yep.
every time, Viejo, I'm going to do something, like, what will my dad do? And
Yeah,
that's
you have those lessons now to draw from. So
Yeah.
you're not going to always make the same decisions because you're two separate people, but you have that legacy to draw from that a lot of people don't have. And Father's Day and Mother's Day, for that matter, can be very hard for a lot of individuals. Maybe the parent wasn't present, or they weren't a good role model, and it can be very difficult. But when you have that great role model, I think to a more or less degree, we owe it to them to pay it forward and to continue
100%.
the legacy, because then our kids see us do that and our kids learn from that. And if we didn't have that legacy, then we can decide, do I want to create this now and start now? Like, maybe your dad, for the sake of argument, didn't have, that tool to draw on when he was a kid and becoming an adult. So he made a decision, I want to do the right thing no matter the cost. And then that would leave a legacy to his kids and his grandkids and great grandkids. So it can happen at any time, but it's cool that you have those lessons to to draw from.
You said the roots. He said the roots. And the
Yep.
tree's growing now. The family tree is growing and going and going and going, which is a beautiful thing. But yeah, it's and that's the Para Jose Seijas. That's our project. That's what we've been doing. We've been sold extremely well at PCA in our export markets. A lot of our export customers were gracious enough to tie in. They tied in, Viejo, and they say, I have a retail shop that say, you know what, I'm going to donate $1,000 for the cause. We have another shop that donated the $10, extra $10, so they matched our donations.
That's
So
incredible.
it's pretty cool to see the development of this project and how it's coming abroad. And it's going to be cooler once we start establishing, because the money we haven't still paid it forward. We're sitting down in meetings to see where it's going to be spent. My focus is spending, because it's not a very large amount of money. It's expended in dopamine, which is a main enzyme that you lose with Parkinson's, and that's what you need.
Yep.
And it's very expensive in the Dominican Republic, extremely expensive. We used to bring it from Spain because it was like €9 in Spain when it was like 120 here. But once again, we had the fortune that we were able to do that. Dominican Republic, there's a lot of people with Parkinson's don't have that fortune.
Yeah.
So that's going to be my focus, trying to get the best bang for your buck. And I think that's where it is. That we will apply this funds that we're raising.
Yeah.
Viejo, my dad wasn't able to see this, but I'm sure Viejo, heaven is heaven. So I'm sure he's playing golf, smoking up Para Jose Seijas, and smiling down at us, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
We're certain of that.
Yeah. And I remember back when I used to own a business, and this is where I met JP actually.
Mhm.
I owned a hot dog cart business, and I was fortunate, and I think I see this a lot in the cigar industry where often dads, but family members continue on in the business with their parents or grandparents. Or it seems like there are a lot of those cases. And I was fortunate to be able to have my kids and my wife and my dad help with a lot of aspects of my business. And we did, and I wanted to do it from the beginning, a very similar thing where with every hot dog I sold, I would donate a portion of the sale of that hot dog to a charity called Feed My Starving Children, which provides meals all over the world for kids that need food. And I remember there were a lot of instances where, let's say it was a brewery or an event space or what have you, where they're not sure how to start raising money for charity, or they don't have a plan, but now somebody else does. Like you have this donation on every box, and now a cigar or a vendor can now piggyback on that and go, oh, I can be part of that. And it just takes that spark for somebody else to go, oh, I can be part of that. And maybe down the road, they do something similar because, your spark encouraged them to give more than they could. Or
it's a snowball effect, right?
Exactly right.
Keep on going and going.
And that was my favorite part about all of it. They're like, why are you doing this? Like, you could be making money. I'm like, we have enough. We're doing this because we can.
Yeah.
I love that about your dad.
Yeah.
We're doing this because it will help people. And I remember the first time I handed a bag of cash to that charity and they told me how many kids it would feed. I cry all the time anyway. And I just lost it. I had no idea of the impact that even a small amount of money can have. And we think, oh, it's not very much, or it's only $1,000, but no, that's $1,000 more than they did.
Exactly.
So I think everybody, if we can figure out a way to do that, man, is it worth it? Because doing something selfless has oddly some really, I hate to use the word benefits, because it makes you feel great about yourself. Like when you do something for someone else, it's a really cool thing.
There's a podcast which I listen to while I'm driving called The Happiness Lab, and it's an interesting podcast because basically the basis of a happiness lab is that what we think that would make us happy, many of the times don't.
Yep.
And what this woman does is that she uses numbers and statistics and studies to explain what makes people happier. And the coolest thing is that statistically, giving makes you happier than taking.
Yes.
100%. I mean, and you feel it when you give anybody. When we're giving a lesson to your kid, or you're giving back, if it's money or helping, you always feel better, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the other thing was being communicative, talking. Sometimes we as adults, and I've seen it with my son. I one thing that my dad he wasn't extremely active in my childhood because he was working all the time. He was a great father. He was present when he needed to be, but he wasn't there all the time. Like he wasn't going to the park with me. We used to go on vacations and we spent time together in the house. We spent time together. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is being an active parent with my kid during the day. If I'm with him, I'll go to the park with him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And something that I've noticed from kids, they don't have any walls. They have no preconceptions. They have no prejudice, right? So they make friends so easy. Like my kid he comes in and like, oh, hi, how are you? I'm Gonzalo. Can I play with you? And that's simple.
Yep.
Awesome.
What was the last thing we do with this shit as adults? It's crazy.
Right.
We don't. Because
I
you believe that if you talk to somebody you don't know, he's going to be annoyed. He doesn't want to get talked to. But the cool thing about this podcast and what I heard is like, no, everybody thinks the same, so nobody talks to each other.
Correct.
You're standing in the line in the bank, and you say, "Hey, how are you?" Somebody, you strike a conversation right away, but you have that prejudice as an adult.
Yep.
Well, and it has nothing to do with the cigars, but it has to do with what statistically what makes you happy. And when it comes with that statistically, there's a full episode about how helping gives you so much more than just taking. I mean, people that do the charity work, people that help, and it can be, as I said, doesn't have to be money wise. Helping somebody cross the street, picking somebody up, anything that you can do to help, it's always going to make you happier. It's always going to feel more rewarding than actually working and making the money, right? You need the money, obviously. I mean, money is not everything in the world, but it resolves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But that helping part, as you were saying, is just adds so much. And the other important thing is, I say we raise X amount of money. It's a lot of money, and thinking about what the other person's receiving and their situation. There's what does it say that you say that if somebody's trash is somebody else's treasure? Not that money is trash or not, right? But it's the same thing. You might think you're not giving a lot, but to that person that you're giving, it's the whole world.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Everything. Yeah, and that brings to mind. I mention this a lot. Happiness is something that, for really in most cases, human beings are not in control of. It's largely determined by our circumstances, whether we feel we're happy or not. However, joy is something that you are entirely in control of. You can choose in the worst of circumstances to still have and to exude joy. And that has always stuck with me, because if you look at the world through the lens of joy, even if you're struggling, you're possibly in a deep depression or something terrible just happened to your family, you've lost a loved one, you're for sure not going to be happy, but you can still, in those moments, practice the process of joy. And I think that is really impactful for people when they think, I can do something even if I'm not happy and still cultivate what we would think of as happiness in others, because I have this joy that, like, what's going on? And that to me is really special.
I can even tell you, no, go ahead, Enrique.
I was like, what's this movie called? About the emotions. Is it called Emotions? About the kid that the emotions on the head.
Inside Out.
Inside Out, exactly. Inside Out. You're talking about joy.
Yep.
Like Joy always had that positive mindset. Everything was falling apart, and she always had that positive mindset of moving forward and being happy and keeping it going. You said it's that mindset of joy in any circumstance. If you have that mindset of being joyful or passing along joy, as you were saying, it's always going to be more positive.
Yep.
So yeah, you can be joyful at different moments. I was at a point where my dad passed away. I was joyful because he was resting. Yes. I was sad because he passed away.
Correct.
But he was now in a better place because at the end, he was closer. You're joyful. There's always a silver lining, I guess. I can get you that joy, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's why I was such a nutcase telling people about that show, Ted Lasso. I'm kind of sad when my first Boveda laptop got stolen out of my rental car, and I miss it because I had a bunch of Ted Lasso stickers on the top of it. And it sparked some really great conversations because people are like, why the heck do you have like this goldfish sticker? Or why do you have, barbecue sauce? They were all moments in a show that was just immensely joyful, that made people feel like it was heartfelt, it was funny, it was sad, but there was always some lesson like bigger than the show that it promoted. And it just made me feel good about being a human and caring for other people. And so that I always think of that when I think of joy and happiness and whatnot.
Wasn't that a great show, man? Ted Lasso.
Show.
I loved it. And the funny thing is, it's the same thing we're talking about. It came to a point, he fought with depression and he was so joyful.
Yes.
As you're saying, there's always a mindset, you always keep on going, right?
Yep.
There's always that joy that was intrinsic to him.
Yeah. And what do they say? Check in on your strong friends.
Yeah.
Because the ones that are investing the most in others sometimes are struggling the hardest. And it's a good reminder to care for the people that are brought into your life. And it's one of the things I love about the cigar industry is people genuinely across the board care for others and help others. I remember hearing a story from one of my customers down in San Antonio, Bill Fink. They've been making cigars and tobacco in San Antonio for, I think, 132 years now. And the family, when the Fuentes needed help and were in dire need of some equipment, the dad said, he sent stuff to Carlos Fuente and said, this is my gift to you. I want to help you out. No need to pay me back. Your family, this is for you. I mean, those are kind of things that that happens, but you don't hear about it until you develop a relationship with someone and they choose to share that moment with you. And I think those are really cool moments when you get to be a part of those. And to hear about your dad and how he invested in you guys. And I look at my grandpa, in that World War II generation, they were more like your dad, where they worked a lot and they weren't going to the park and going to all of the activities, but they still loved their families. And you have to try to find the nuggets of like, how did they invest in us and what lessons did they leave? 100%. I'm more like you. I, as much as I could, would take each of my 5 girls 2 times a year out of school, and we'd do daddy-daughter days, and we'd go and do whatever they wanted to do. And I was so flabbergasted. This is kind of as social media was really, Instagram especially, really getting popular. And I'd always post pictures on my business account of me doing stuff with my girls. That got way more interaction than any of my business related stuff, because people want to see that you're a human being and that you're a family and that you care about people. And they're like, hey, Nate, I took my kid out to a date and took him out of school. And I'm like, good on you, man. Do it as much as you can, because they're, my kids are grown now. And I think back in those moments and they're, I get sentimental some days.
100%. That's something my sister told me when I had my sister's 7 years my senior, right? So her kids are already old. Her kids are in college, they're 20, 21.
Yep.
And when I had my first kid, Gonzalo, he cried all the time. He was very needy and always wanted to be close to me. My sister's like, you know what? And this is advice I've always heeded and I always learn. You don't always learn from other people, but this I try to give from parents, older parents. It's like, you know what? Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, because you're going to come to a point where you're going to be wishing that kid was hugging you and being on top of you.
Yeah.
So just take it in as much as you can as a parent. So they come to a point where they become their own people.
Yep.
They just keep on going back. We always come back, because I remember I was very close to my parents, and then I went to college and I went like this, and I started going more towards the alcohol and the partying. And then I came to a point where I just came back, like, I'm done with alcohol and partying, and came back to my family values and my kids and my parents. And you always come back to your core, right?
Yep.
But it's a long way to come back, right? So enjoy them when they're young, because it's they get old very quickly. Well, you should know, and I'm living it now.
Yeah, and there's a different kind of joy watching your kids, I guess, spread their wings, and discover who they are now as an adult. And my kids are 18 to 25, and now my older girls, now that they're done with college, call us regularly and come back to see us. And they were just here for our my youngest graduated from high school, so they were here, and now it's just really cool to see them engage with other adult friends of my wife and I's as adults, and now they're not little kids anymore. There's a different joy there. I still get sentimental for those days where your daughter or your son comes up and grabs your hand and you're walking down the street. But now it's the phone rings and you see their face pop up, and all of a sudden your day's better. So
Oh, 100%. It comes to a point, I think, when you become at some level socially, your equals, your parents equals, right? Socially, you can socialize. You have the same type of atmosphere. Let's say when you have a company, we start a job, you have the same type of conversation. You're never
Yep.
going to be equal to your parents, obviously, because they're your parents, right? They're always going to be king
Yep.
and queen. But when it comes socially, you can actually, as you were saying, you can socialize with. I can socialize with my dad's friends, with my mom's friends. I can socialize with people their age, because
Mhm.
the older you get, the closer that gap. The gap closes a lot more socially.
Oh yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing when you come back and you're actually sitting down, like you sitting down with my dad, right, smoking a cigar, having a drink, and just talking about adult shit, which I would never talk before, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very cool thing about being a parent and being a son. And that when it comes back, and I'm sure that causes so much pride to you, seeing that with your daughter and be able to have a different type of conversation with your daughter. It's not like, oh, actually, it's what you call it, is bullying me or picking on me. Now it's more like, oh,
Yeah.
dad, what do you think I could do for this? And basically, you start talking about business wise
Yep.
or more mature things,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
is something that I'm really looking forward to as I coach. And I'm sure you're living it beautifully right now. But
Yeah.
it has to do with the course and the values that you give to your kids when they're growing up. It's at those first years. I think it's up to 14 years where the values are set
Yep. Yep.
as a parent, as a kid. And then after that, they take their own path and go on everything, no? But
Yep.
those key values, those roots are set.
Yep.
So, Enrique, bringing it full circle, this has been a great conversation, and it means a lot to us to have you here. What do you hope about your father, Jose? What do you hope people will see as his legacy now, but even more importantly, moving forward? What will his legacy be, for your family, as well as people who, maybe never had the opportunity to get to know him at all, whether that has to do with the cigar industry or just his personal life? I mean, you've touched on it a little bit, but what do you hope that'll be?
I think that my dad made his mark where he had to make his mark, being the cigar industry or personal. And his legacy is never gonna die. I really don't have to carry his legacy, I would say. You could see it, in his funeral, how people talk about him. I travel all the time, and I still get to hear stories about my dad. So
Yeah.
that's something that he built and he's keeping. As a son, obviously, as I said, I want to follow with his footsteps, personal wise, and the way that he worked with people, and keep our legacy, our family, and keep what he was building and moving forward and pushing forward in the cigar industry.
Yeah.
And how that's going to look is that we're going to keep on building Matilde. We're going to keep on making Para Jose Seijas. And in the future, we will revive Jose Seijas. And our plan is actually, this is a brand new for everybody that goes to premicia. Say, what is the premicia? Premise? So out of the premise and above it Unboxed Live we will be developing the Seijas brand again,
I love
and parallel to the Matilde, because I think that it would be the ultimate way to keep my dad in the industry and his legacy. But personally,
That's beautiful.
I think outgrow my dad's legacy is going to be very hard for the person that he was. Basically, personally, I'm just going to keep on pushing to be able to get where he was, and someday if I can be better, not better, or grow a little bit more, I would. But it's more of making true to what he's taught me, to what he showed, and just making it true and keeping it moving forward the way he goes. Because he built his own legacy, and I still get stories. And trust me, I've gotten so much help from the industry and so much praise from the industry, and that's the coolest thing. And I thought the coolest thing of this industry was going to be like learning from my dad. The coolest thing from this freaking industry is every time I travel, as some random guy gives me a story about my dad, about he went to the factory and he smoked a cigar, or about he helped him here, or so, all these. And 10 years later with Matilde, I'm still getting these stories from different people. It's a
Yeah.
crazy thing, and every time I get this, I'm like, holy shit! I'm so glad I'm in this industry, because
Yeah.
those are stories you don't get. because he just did things without just because, right? It was like, oh, I did this, I did that. So it's very cool. Like 10 years later, you find somebody that he helped and he did this position because of X, Y, Z. So it's even it's that. So I hope that at some point in my life, when my son takes over, I'll be able to give my son the same beautiful experience that my dad has given me, of how people talk about him, how he helped people. And I think that's the biggest thing a parent can do. I studied in the best places. They give us money, anything that you need, but nothing compares to that positive feedback, that pride. Every time somebody tells me something about my dad, it just lights me up with pride. As you said, when your daughter calls you, your face lights up. When somebody's like, "Oh, I have this story about Jose or about Jose," my face lights up right away. I can be miserable and it just lights up. And I think that is where we as kids, as family members, as fathers need to try to get there, right? It's not about us. It's about building it for our kids.
Yep.
It's about building the legacy. It's about building those stories so our kids can hear it, not from us, but from other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I hope and wish, that I could leave my kid the same thing my dad gave me, which is his happiness in the industry and with everything that he's done.
I think you said it there. I mean, that's the best gift that I think you can give your child, is for them to feel that much pride and that much joy thinking about them, but also hearing their name in conversation after they're gone. That says it all.
Well, I can tell you, knowing the person that you are, that if I ever get to meet your kids in person, your kids will hear about you and how great you are from us. Yeah. So you're doing a great job.
By the way, something cool we didn't talk about was, if you look at the wax paper, the paper that covers the cigars, right?
Yeah.
So my dad was very meticulous. I try to do the box and the branding as personal as possible. So the branding from the box was supposed to be clean, but still call attention, so it pop out, but still be clean, as quiet as my dad. He was a guy that broke everything down, and what he had was notebooks, like journals, and like researching to create this brand. My mom, we moved, we sold our family home. My mom moved to the city, and we came on a box like with 20 journals. And these journals had personal notes, had cigar notes. And I said, it'd be really cool. It's a cigar to honor my dad. I want people to see something that is my dad. So these are all notes that he would dissect the cigars that he was smoking them. It's something he used to do a lot. He had like small notebooks, big notebooks. He had always like a little pad right here.
Yeah.
And he's smoking a cigar. He'd be like writing down, like, dude, aren't you gonna freaking enjoy this cigar? He's like, this is how I enjoy them. I like to do this. And you'll see you got like the burners, they had runners, and the reason why the runners are there, you just take notes and notes and notes. So we had these this journal scanned. Obviously, I filtered a lot of the stuff that was there, but we had them scanned and put them in the wax paper so people can have something from my dad. Same thing with the seal of warranty. Has two signatures. One is mine, created by, and the other one is authorized. That's my dad's signature. And then blend number and release date, that was done by hand by either my wife or myself, because I wanted to put it as personal as possible.
Yeah.
In a way which you could do, right? Well, that's a very cool thing that I always like to pinpoint, that wax paper is my dad's handwriting, which is kind of hieroglyphically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's super cool, man. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. What a nice touch. Well, Enrique, again, it means a lot to us to have you here. Obviously, we love you. We love your dad, and I don't think anybody is going to soon forget his contributions to the industry, but furthermore, just how great of a person he was. And we appreciate the stories, and we know that we'll continue hearing the stories about him. And guess what? There'll be a lot more stories about you as your legacy grows and you continue writing your own legacy. So thank you. We really appreciate it. Happy Father's Day. Happy belated birthday. Happy birthday to I believe it's your father-in-law.
Father-in-law. Yep.
Your child. I mean, it's birthday month.
Yes.
We have a lot of birthdays. We have like 6 birthdays in our family. like straight after it. It was 5 is my son, is 6 is nobody, 7 is me, 8 is my aunt, 11 is my uncle, is my father-in-law. Then the 30th is a cousin. So it's like a month of June is like a birthday bash.
That's
I love it.
awesome, man.
Yep, that's awesome. Well, happy Father's Day to you.
Likewise.
To all the dads out there. Hope you get to enjoy some good food and time with your families, and hopefully get yourself Para Jose Seijas. Where can people find this cigar? I would assume most retailers that carry your cigars already hopefully have brought this cigar in. Let us know where people can find this cigar.
Most retailers that carry Matilde. If your home shop has Matilde, they should have Para Jose Seijas. I would say about 95% of retailers that carry Matilde bought in either a large amount or a small amount of Para Jose Seijas to help in the cause. And online, you can always get them at our online partners. You have Neptunes, you have Bale Luxuries, you have Small Batch, you have Smoke Game, so you can get them online if there's not a retail around you that has Matilde. But if you have a retail around you that has Matilde, support brick and mortar.
Absolutely.
They're part of our retail industry, and they're the reasons that our industry keeps on growing.
Absolutely.
And so go your brick and mortar if you want to get them there if you can.
So you heard that, folks. Go out and get yourself a box of Para Jose Seijas at your local brick and mortar retailer if you can. Stock up on your Boveda at the same time. Support those retailers. Thank you, Enrique, for taking time out of your day to come and spend time with us here at Boveda.
It's always a pleasure.
And we can't wait to see you soon and create more of these memories. Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of your week and a great Father's Day weekend. Cheers.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.